This video is intended to guide educators who would like to include an engagement in the Beyond the Classroom Matters system. It may be helpful to think about this process as somewhat parallel to Banner. Banner is designed to collect and manage information about courses and student participation in courses. Beyond the Classroom Matters is designed to collect and manage information about experiential courses and the co-curriculum and student participation in those courses, events, programs, and activities called engagements in this system. Similar to how each course is described in the academic bulletin, each engagement is described in the Beyond the Classroom Matters engagement catalog. And when students complete a cataloged engagement, their records of completion are collected in BTCM. As engagements are cataloged, the Center for Integrative and Experiential Learning leads a process to review those for designation of engagements as experiential learning opportunities. When an engagement is designated as an ELO, this is noted in the engagement catalog and in student records. Students then have access to these records called My U of SC Experience. Students can select from their records to produce their U of SC Experience transcript, which can be distributed to employers, graduate schools, awards committees, and others through the registrar's transcript storefront. So this describes the BTCM process. An engagement is an experiential course or other educationally purposeful program, event, or activity. The educator responsible for an engagement provides the information for the catalog entry that describes it. The accuracy of that description is critical as it defines what's represented by the record on the student's transcript. An engagement catalog entry documents the educational purpose and design of an engagement. Once an engagement is cataloged, records of student completion of the engagement are collected each term in a records repository in BTCM and interfaced with other student records in the university's data warehouse. Each student and the student's advisor can then access the student's My U of SC Experience records and the associated descriptions and definitions in the engagement catalog. And as mentioned, each student can select records from their My U of SC Experience records to create their experiential transcript. To catalog an engagement, the educator must describe its educational purpose. So why is this engagement offered to students? What do you intend for them to gain from the experience? In the next step, describing the design of the engagement, it's expected that the design will align with that stated purpose, that it makes sense that these activities will produce the stated benefit. To document the design of the engagement, the educator must describe the learning activities, what students do, that are designed to produce the benefit or gain that was named in the educational purpose statement. The cataloging process also asks for more specific design elements. These are discussed in additional videos. Finally, the educator must be able to systematically identify the students who participate and complete an engagement. These are official education records, so it's essential to correctly identify every student. If the engagement is credit-bearing, this is easier as the students have registered for a course. For non-credit-bearing engagements, it's more challenging. In the next slide, we'll provide some examples of methods currently in use. So here are some examples of purpose and design and methods for monitoring student completion of examples. For example, in the first column, a welcome week activity, a social event might be created to help students develop a sense of belonging on campus. So that would be the purpose for that event. The design of that purpose to help students develop a sense of belonging might be to provide opportunities for students to meet other students with shared interests. And the means for monitoring student participation in this engagement might be to scan their Carolina card at entry to the engagement. Another kind of engagement might have a purpose of advancing students' knowledge of campus resources. And the design of that event might be that students listen to a campus expert describe the available services, maybe in the library or the Student Success Center. And the method for monitoring attendance or participation in that engagement might be an online registration system and then a check-in process at the event. Similarly, a mindfulness workshop, a seminar on nutrition or cooking, or a yoga class might have a purpose of advancing students' skills for managing their well-being. The design of that engagement might be to listen to an expert and then practice techniques in a workshop. And again, the method for monitoring might be the online registration and check-in process at the event. A final example might be a deeper kind of example, maybe a peer educator role, such as a tutor or a supplemental instruction peer leader, U101 peer leader, resident mentor. These kind of engagements have multiple component parts. And for many of these peer educator roles, one of the purposes or benefits that students can gain from serving in those roles is the development of interpersonal skills. So that might be identified as one of the intended outcomes or purposes for that engagement. The design of that to help students, what students do that is believed to produce that benefit is when these students provide educational services to their peers, such as tutoring, SI, or serving as resident mentors. So the component parts of this engagement might be that the peer educators participate in training, they then perform the assigned tasks, they receive feedback on their performance in the role, and they are engaged in reflection on their learning in the engagement. And the method for monitoring their participation in an engagement like this, there are more component parts. It's over a longer period of time, so it requires more documentation of the component parts. So for those kinds of engagements in BTCM, those engagements are documented in Blackboard. 2 additional critical notes about student records. The educator, again responsible for an engagement, must make sure that each student is correctly identified, and these are official student education records that can be reported on an official experiential transcript bearing the seal of the university and the registrar's signature. So to assure the systematic and accurate identification of students and collection of records, we try to minimize the manual processing of records as much as possible. So Beyond the Classroom Matters staff will help educators determine the best method for doing that. Engagements that are designated as experiential learning opportunities are so identified by the ornament shown in the slide here. This is one of the university's graphic design elements, and a transcript guide accompanies the experiential transcript when it's sent by the university to explain the meaning of all the various component parts. This video was intended to provide a broad overview of what's required to catalog an engagement. Additional videos provide more specific information. If you have questions about whether or not your engagement meets the criteria for cataloging in the Beyond the Classroom Matters system, or how you might modify it so that it is eligible to include, please contact us via email at ufscexperience@sc.edu, and at any time you can complete the Getting Started form to provide some introductory information about an engagement you'd like to catalog, and BTCM staff will contact you with next steps.